Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profits. I'm Seth Ferguson. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our daily interviews with successful real estate investors. Our guest today helps $100 million plus net worth families create and manage their single family offices. He's the founder of the Family Office Club with over 1,700 members and is the author of the book entitled The Single Family Office. Richard Wilson joins us today. Richard, welcome to Purchase to Profits. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me here, Seth.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And I have to say, I am very much looking forward to chatting with you and learning about this really unique space that you're in.
Yeah, it's a fun space to focus on for sure.
Yeah, so to kick things off, do you want to explain what a single family office is? Because most people have never even heard of that term before.
Yeah, sure. So essentially, if you were to grow a real estate portfolio or business and sell it for, let's say, $200 million, you're going to have different types of problems and opportunities than somebody who's worth $200,000 or $2 million. So the complexity goes up greatly, and you really only want to be working with people that are used to that complexity. They can help you navigate it because they know it very well. And a single family office is really a holistic team. It's going to help you manage your money and manage your balance sheet and really your life now that you're ultra wealthy. And it's important that people know there are other types of family offices out there, like a multifamily office is basically like a wealth management firm that's much more holistic and focused on people worth 10, 20, $50 million plus. And they might have 50 different clients. That's very different than having your own single family office where the whole team is dedicated just to serving you, your balance sheet, your life, etc.
Yeah. So really, in essence, these families are creating mini businesses to manage their money. Is that a good way to put it?
Right. It's almost like getting a business team put together. But also you need certain types of service providers, I guess, similar as you'd have in a business, like a really high-end accountant, really high-end estate attorney, et cetera, to supplement that internal team. So even if a family is worth $5 billion or $8 billion, they're still going to have some things outsourced rather than do it all in-house. So it's really just a matter of where they are on the spectrum of how much they want to keep inside the team versus outside.
Gotcha. And with yourself, are there partnerships in other countries? Because I would imagine some of these families have holdings, all over the world. Or are you really just localized in one spot?
Most of our clients right now are based in the United States, but we have a lot of relationships in Europe and Canada, and then in Asia, in Singapore, Hong Kong is where we have the most connections. But really there's family offices, everywhere globally now. And there's new family offices starting up every day and formalizing every day. So it's a big opportunity set out there for those that want to raise capital.
Yeah. And let's get into the mindset of these families. Would I be wrong in saying that capital preservation is first and foremost in setting this up, or are they looking more for growth?
Most of the time, capital preservation and just managing all the moving parts and chaos of what's going on is one of the chief concerns, but also planning for the next generation, governance concerns, and whether it's the second, third generation and they're not trying to double that net worth or 10 times their net worth, and they're just trying to be conservative, then capital preservation becomes important. But even if it's a first generation family that says, well, we had an exit, like one of my more recent clients we're just engaging with now has a $240 million exit they just had. So they want to go and build their next $100 million a year company and then sell that. But even in that case, the family office purpose is really a lot about preserving the capital, and then they'll dedicate their own time and their own expertise in trying to grow the capital. But many times there's just so much to do in managing the wealth that you need a full-time team just to watch all the moving parts. And if you don't have one, you're going to make little mistakes that add up to more than the cost of having that team anyway. So There's a cost to, if you're worth over $100 million, you're going to pay for that family office, whether you have it or not. You're just going to pay for it in mistakes and unknown cost versus being able to not deal with the small stuff and focus on what you're good at as a family.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. And I'm always curious to learn about mindset of people that are further ahead than myself. So, you're working with these ultra wealthy families on a daily basis. What is their thinking like compared to, let's say, a well-off, kind of upper middle class family today? Like how do they approach money and investing differently?
They definitely think on a large scale, but also on a concentrated investment of energy of going kind of all in on a strategy. It could be a multifold strategy, or dominating a niche area, or
Yeah.
getting all the intellectual property in a specific area. But many times they're looking at trying to play a more complex game of business, because they have found that the wealth creation comes from maybe controlling distribution or controlling referral sources and being able to drive up their net worth because of that. So oftentimes I found that a lot of people outside the space are in one business. They define themselves as an accounting firm. They define themselves as a conference company. But if that's the only one thing you do, what's your advantage against others? You better have an amazing strategy, because with that simple of a business model, you don't have an advantage based on what you are. So what you do is where you're relying upon all of your advantage. So I just find that families like to think that way, like strategically, in ways where they can gain a superior position in the marketplace that's secure because of what they've acquired or built media wise or distribution wise.
Okay. And where does real estate fit into their game plan in terms of the single family office?
I would say that when we did a benchmark survey of 180 family offices, we found that 75% of them had a formal allocation to real estate. And of those, 25% of their portfolio was dedicated to real estate. If a family creates their wealth in real estate, they typically will invest anywhere from 40 to 60, sometimes 100% of their wealth back into real estate,
Yeah.
because they know it so well. But even families that made their money in manufacturing or an operating business or a fintech company typically are going to put capital to work within, apartment buildings or self-storage or the office park that they work out of, et cetera. So they look at it as a good tax shield to build their net worth, put different varying links of debt on properties, maybe so it doesn't show a lot of profit per year on the income, but it's paying down the debt note, and then they'll be worth more in the future. And I think a lot of families just naturally go to real estate deals they can understand and that are semi-local to them, because they want to be able to assess the asset, be familiar with the suburb or the city, know what the growth trends are, be comfortable with that so they can sleep at night. And they like hard assets that produce cash dividends consistently. So I think those are some of the things that families look for. And I think if the family does not understand how the real estate business works, and it's not local to them, unless they really trust the team and know the team and the leader very well, they're never going to invest in that deal. So I think that for families that are just going through a liquidity event and listening to this, it can really help to focus. And if you only look at self-storage in Southern California, or if you only look at multifamily apartment buildings in New Jersey, and you look at 30 of those or 50 of those, you're going to move up the learning curve and become pretty wise at what's a good deal, a bad deal in your local area. So I think focus can help a lot of families. And then on the side where people are raising capital, I would focus on investors who are already investing in that asset class. They're familiar with the space, even if they're not in your city. And then look for regional and in your city family offices and private investors, because then you can drive them to the asset, show them the asset, and get momentum faster on getting them to really trust the deal and your team.
Yeah, and you raise a really good point in terms of sourcing that capital. Lots of our viewers, they're involved in syndication of larger deals, or they're interested in getting involved in the syndication side. And finding the capital is usually question number one with
Sure.
somebody. So, what advantages, or how would somebody go about approaching a single family office to say, hey, listen, I have this great deal, this good opportunity. How do you
Right.
do that?
Yeah. I think the best way is to get to know them well enough to figure out how you could come at them with an angle that's very specific to what they want. Like, for example, if they only invest in Connecticut or Texas, wait till you have a relevant deal. The other thing is to find some way you can make an introduction for them or help them in some way that's meaningful, or see who in common to get a connection or referral to. But also, I think going in with an open mind, because a lot of these family offices are entrepreneurial, they're somewhat creative, they're open to joint ventures or a co-GP type engagement. They might be a seed or an anchor investor for you, or systematically, fill up 20% or 50% of your LP, need on each deal. So I think just approaching it with an open mind is most important. And I've got I've got an 80-page book on capital raising that is free on capitalraising.com, and it gives a more long answer that would take a few hours to say here, but it's really the process we've used to attract the $100 million plus net families to us. And it's a strategy that many members in the Family Office Club are using to raise capital now.
Okay, and just to be clear, the single family offices are they are located right now. They're located around the states, but you're kind of under one umbrella. Is that in your organization?
Well, essentially, what we have is the Family Office Club is like a community, like an association in the industry, and we have 1,750 plus members who are registered investors, and then we have about 1,000 charter members who pay like a Netflix like subscription each month to come to conferences and access our portal, etc. And so in the middle is that, podcast, books, conferences, a lot of exposure, but then we don't raise capital for people on a hands-on basis. We offer things because there's like 1,000 people out there that are placement agents and raising capital for people. Yeah. So we do things that other people don't, like capital raising workshops and databases of investors, and we write a lot of books on the topic because that's what I used to do, is raise capital. And then on the service side, on the other side of the fence, we work with we have contracts signed with 23 different families that are worth over $100 million each, and those are our close circle of clients. And for those clients, we're just helping them set up, form, and run their single family offices. So I think it's important to mention because, first of all, it can be confusing. And then people hear this and be like, oh, yeah, Richard could be the one. I just need 5 intros. Or I just need 20 intros, right? Yeah. But, we have 1,000 members in our kind of Netflix model, and they come to our events to meet with investors. That's just how the platform works. But it's also important to mention because if I didn't have the background raising capital, then I wouldn't be as helpful to people in the space. But also, I'm still doing those workshops because the family offices that hire me, they can get a fund manager off a platform from any private bank, and they can get access to equities and bonds and different types of indexes very easily through 1,000 different platforms. But what's still very inefficient by the very nature of it is getting access to direct investments in great real estate deals, great commercial real estate, direct investments in operating businesses. So the very nature of the industry is they're always looking for better deal flow, better structures, smarter ways of doing things. So like at each month we have this investor event series, and we have 30 investors on stage. They're all saying what structures they use, how they invest, how they like to be approached, how they like to be pitched, what they just invested in, why they just backed away from a deal. And none of the speakers are paid. They come because they want the deal flow. And I think that's important to realize, is that we couldn't exist unless this space wasn't new, first of all, and unless there wasn't a real hunger by single family offices for direct investments. So I think for those listening who are trying to raise capital, realizing that should be motivating to figure out who are the local single family offices, who are the 20, 30, 100 million plus net worth investors in your city or an area that's just a drive or a commuter flight away from you, and try to figure out how to be in their communities, attract them to you, reach out and meet with them in person, and really build your network of 20 or 30 of these family offices so you can get to know them and be creative and working with them. So I think that's something that people need to realize, that no matter where you are, there's family offices around you. It's just figuring out like where to find them and how to get them to find you.
Yeah. And you raised a really good point. These single family offices, they're looking for deals in deal flow. So some people might think, oh, well, they wouldn't be interested in looking at my deal because, they've got a $300 million net worth. But if it's a good deal, like, you guys are on the hunt, right?
Yeah, for sure. They're always looking for a better deal than what they're considering now. And if they're only seeing 20 deals a year, then their top 1% of deals, even their top deal wouldn't match the 1% of someone who sees 100 deals a year or 400 deals a year.
Yeah.
And we get, a couple deals submitted every day. Sometimes we'll get as many as 20 or 30 deals submitted in a single day. And a well-known family office will see the same. But the trick is that a lot of people send family offices deals that don't make sense for the family. They don't follow up in person. They're just emailing 500 different people. That's what doesn't work. Yeah. What works is getting to know the families, meeting with them in person, thinking creatively, thinking about what they value, what they bring to the table, what they're trying to get done. And if you approach it in a way that's serving them and open-minded and adding value first, it makes all the difference because everybody else is too lazy to do that. They want to send an email to 700 people, hopefully 10 reply, hopefully they can convince one or two to invest. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I think that's the $100 million piece of advice right there. You can't just blanket email. It's real estate and the like, this is all people relationships, right? You have to rub the shoulders and contact people, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think that if you don't want to invest 3 to 5 months or 6 to 9 months in getting to know someone before they're going to invest at a minimum, then you should stay collecting the $20,000 and $50,000 checks for the rest of your life, because the people who invest a lot more want to get to know you, and they don't care if your deal is the most amazing one in the world. If you pressure them to move too fast, or you think it's all about the deal, you've kind of missed the whole point, because they would rather invest with someone they have high conviction in. They like your process, they like your team, they're comfortable with who you are, and then build a long-term relationship rather than just like, oh yeah, great, you have the best returns, we'll invest with you. Yeah. That's really not what they're looking for.
Yeah. And how do you see single family offices changing over the next, let's say, 5 years? Like, are there any trends in how things are moving?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a couple of big trends. First of all, there's more family offices being started all the time. Second is that for single family offices, there's a type where if you're only worth 70 million or 40 or 30, and you want to have a single family office, you could. It just might just be one person and everything's made virtual and you just rely on outsourced service providers. And that is possible. There's an $800 million family I know that's just ran by the son and the family, and they outsource everything. That's called a virtual family office, and it just means very leanly operated single family office. So I think there'll be more of those in the future. And then the other thing is just that a lot of families are realizing that they're many times best served by having a multifamily office engaged, but then also having their own single family office. So in the future, I think we're going to see a lot more of that too, as people are going to realize that, okay, for fund manager allocations and liquids and cash management, estate planning, all of that, let's put 50 or 60 or 70% of our capital or more with this multifamily office. But then for the other portion where we create our wealth of manufacturing, let's also have our own single family office that kind of connects to the multifamily office and have both in place at the same time. And I'm seeing that happen a lot more now.
Yeah, gotcha. And, over the past, let's say 5 years, we've seen a lot of media pressure on, disclosure and, getting into the nitty gritty details of these families, personal investments. Like, how does the single family office help, or what do you see changing with that to protect these families' privacy?
A lot of the firms, if the family is worth, over 300-400 million, they'll engage with a private security firm to help manage their social media, help manage exposure, what the family is doing, what's being said publicly. Many times a formalized family office will have pretty strict rules on talking to the media or speaking at events or being interviewed on a radio show or a podcast like this, et cetera. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons why I think the Family Office Club has grown a lot, is that we just keep on writing a new book or two every year. We do a lot of podcasts and events, and we're just kind of trying to spread the word about it, because a lot of family offices are restricted and they're not able to. But as the family office term becomes more widespread, there'll be more and more issues about people trying to pry into what are these family offices doing. So one way that family offices have been responding recently is to create a family office not with their last name, but with kind of a functional industry name that kind of signifies where they created their wealth or what their strength is, to kind of attract the type of deal flow that they're more likely to say yes to anyways. Yeah. And that kind of protects their privacy a little bit more.
Gotcha. So, and you mentioned the Single Family Office Club. If somebody's looking for some more information about your books and the events you put on, where can they find you?
The best way is going to familyoffices.com with an S, familyoffices.com. And if you go there, you'll see the next 6 months of our events all mapped out there. We're always updating the calendar. We do 25 live events per year. And that'd be the best place. We have a free book on family offices there as well. If you're looking to start a family office because you've had a liquidity event, we have a lot of information on singlefamilyoffices.com. And we've got a book there you can download and a form you can fill out to schedule a call or something to discuss what your needs are.
That's great. Well, Richard, just want to say thanks so much for taking the time today to share with the really interesting stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me here, Seth. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And to our viewers, I wish you well in your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.